Welcome, everybody, to the BS&A working group as established by the Board of Trustees. This is a ad hoc temporary committee of the board to discuss all the implications of potential transition from BS&A Net to BS&A Online, or Kathleen, how do you call it?
The cloud.
The cloud.
It's a hosted solution.
Versus a hosted solution. Okay. In the absence of a facilitator, I'll call the meeting to order at 1:14 p.m. I'm Jessica Flintoft, clerk.
Ryan Yapel, treasurer.
Kathleen Brand, trustee.
Great. And we three are the committee members. I'd like to first ask that we assemble a brief agenda. I would suggest that we appoint a chair and a secretary, and then spend some time kind of outlining the scope and some of our first steps. How does that sound?
Good.
I would agree with that agenda. Move that we assemble the agenda as proposed.
Support. Motion by Yapel, support by Flintoft. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion adopted. First off, I'd like to suggest we appoint a chair for purposes of facilitation and a secretary for purposes of minutes. I am happy to perform either role. Ryan and Kathleen, what would you like to do?
I make a motion to have Clerk Flintoff serve as chair of this group.
I would second that.
Okay, I will accept the nomination. We can agree by consensus, if that's okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
And then, who would like to be secretary?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Ryan.
I was just about to step up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there consensus on that?
Yes.
Great, perfect. All right, thank you, Ryan. So let's talk a little bit about the project. I will turn it over to you, Ryan, to kind of give an overview of how you think we should kind of tackle the many aspects of this research endeavor.
Absolutely. So as we at the table all know, do we have to have public comment?
Oh, yes, thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Excuse me, public comment? There's nobody here in the room. Let me see if there is anybody on Zoom here. Apologies. Okay, Rob Pattinson, any comment? Seeing no Zoom hands. We will continue. We'll also have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Okay, back to you, Ryan.
All right, more of a project overview. So as everyone here at the table is familiar with, we had a demonstration with BS&A here the end of May with a lot of the internal staff. I think almost everyone was able to be present that would be impacted. We also have had some individual conversations. I know I've spoken with BS&A sales representatives who have changed on the township's account a couple of times over the last 6 months. And now we have a new sales representative whose name is Matt. I guess we have to figure out a few different things. One aspect is we do seem to be heading towards this as a sure thing, and I think it's quite likely, but are we for sure going to go to this and not any other solution? I think that's the biggest thing to figure out first. Because we do not have an end of support date yet for the .NET solution. That's one thing that's both good and bad. Doesn't drive us to make a decision to have something accomplished by a specific date, but it also is likely to extend out the longer we wait, simply because BS&A has been reporting that they have 80% of customers still on a .NET solution, which would lead our implementation probably to be even longer. So I guess that would be my first question. Does anybody have any other options than going this route?
I think it's a good question that we should at least answer and not just make the assumption. I think it would be worth kind of a cursory look. I've gotten the informal advice from our interim finance director, Brian Kamiller, who has advised, being a local unit of government in Michigan, it would make sense that there's not much competition, that it would make sense to stick with BS&A. I know that the GFOA has some Government Finance Officers Association. I'd be happy to look into it if it's helpful. They have some ERP advisory services,
Mhm.
whereas government finance people, they will kind of come in and give some advice. I don't know how much they would do pro bono, but probably some, if it'd be worth giving a call. But how do we want to approach the question if we should look outside of BS&A?
So your normal process would be to say what software fits our needs.
So from my limited experience here over the last 8 months, being in person at Township Hall, I haven't seen advertisements in MTA, discussion on their message boards of really much of a similar solution offered by anybody else in the state.
Yeah, I don't.
But I
think-
wanted to bring it up in case there is something.
No, for
that
sure.
looks
So
interesting.
like Munitrex, I think they do some of the reporting. I don't know if they do all of the accounting. What is so unique about BS&A is it ties together the assessing modules. We currently have 2, the treasury modules, we have 2, and the finance, we have 8 modules.
Did this earlier.
Yeah, I got it. That's just for us. It's not affecting Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess what,
I'll put a question out there just to see if there's, to
okay,
GFOA, just to see if there's any, contenders that we're unaware of.
Right?
I'll do some additional research online. I didn't see much when I was looking, but
Yeah.
I'll validate that one more time just to make sure.
Thank you, Ryan.
If you say your starting point is you would like to keep your current functionality.
Yeah.
Right? It's finance, assessing, utilities.
Surgery.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that, I guess, at our next meeting, which will come up as a question a little bit later, because we never didn't set a meeting schedule either. It's a housekeeping item, so.
Yeah.
I guess the next step I would have, with that being said, it doesn't outright seem like there's a lot of other options on the market for us to
Yeah.
compare to. So what are some of the considerations of moving to a cloud environment from both an internal, as far as our internal departments, either with themselves or other departments, as well as the external, the residents and those that we work with? We need to start thinking about that, because that's going to be what probably drives when we want to implement, how we want to implement, and that aspect of things.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess when I think about going to a hosted environment, I think about, control and security of the data.
Mm.
So just to make sure, we would have both of those things. I mean, so many, our website, lots of things are going to the cloud. But I would want to have some in-house or contracted some third-party assurance about the security of our data, that it wouldn't be at any more risk of being hacked or manipulated in any way.
It's a very good point.
Because that's certainly out of my wheelhouse, but I would want some sort to make sure we had the right level of expertise looking at that part of BS&A and not just talking to their salespeople, so. Because local governments are targeted a lot, and I could just imagine the havoc that could be wreaked, by changing.
I think Webster was,
They did. Webster and Ann Arbor Township also had an issue a couple years ago. So that's part of, we have the data here, and there's, security risks that come with hosting locally as well.
Sure. I think that's a good question. I think that knowing some of the issues, thankfully, I think they've been better with the internal network. But
Yes.
we do receive sporadic reports from different folks that either their BS&A is very slow on our hosted local network.
Mhm.
And if we're going to have this stored on the cloud and we're gonna have issues there, I think one thing it does solve is it does solve the VPN issue.
Yeah, it solves a lot of issues. I'm just thinking about going to a cloud-based, a hosted solution, like the reliability is then less in our hands. So it'll probably be better, perhaps, but
so you mentioned that our current system is slow at times. Isn't that driven by the strength of our servers?
Mm-hmm.
so I have found, Brian, I don't know what experience you're talking about, that, yeah, on my desk, the BS&A, it can be slow. It's quirky, Kathleen, with each of the 12 modules. There's all these updates. It's workstation updates. And I don't know what drives that, but that slows me down. The only time where people have to use VPN is when, like, our auditor, Woodhill, coming into LASA, if I were, say, working from home, I would VPN in to get into BS&A. Pretty much that's been okay for me, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been too slow since we installed Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be slow with the prior VPN provider. Where are you seeing delays?
I've heard commentary from different staff members about both in-house, sometimes the programs are slow to react. I don't necessarily think that's prevalent, but I've heard that as anecdotal. I also have heard from the finance manager that she's had issues with the VPN, but I think maybe that's a device specific problem.
It is.
Probably more than anything. The reliability of the solution question is a good one. I think following up with BS&A on their uptime
Yeah.
agreement, they had mentioned informally that they maintain 99.9 something percent uptime. I said, well, what is our assurance that if you do have something that happens, what do we receive as either a service credit or an extension of service
Mhm.
to make up for that? So
Yeah. I think we have some terms in the Granicus agreement, because we went through this with them. We also went through this with our managed service provider. So I don't know what the kind of industry standard, what we should be able to expect, because that is one area I might worry a bit about with BS&A, since they are on the smaller side of things.
I guess I have a question, thinking through this. timing wise, when is, because what we've been told is that from the time we signed an agreement, whatever that might be, in 6 to 12 months, when would be a good time from a multi-department activity level to actually transition?
Well, so I've got plenty of questions about implementation methodology, project plan, costs. So that should, I find their implementation timeline kind of lengthy.
Yeah,
I did SAP projects in a year, but that was predicated on doing process design. How do you want this to work? And we will either configure it or do custom development. I think this is a standard solution that we're not going in, we're taking standard solution, we're not asking for changes.
that's true.
We accept that now, right?
Yep.
So I really don't know why their implementation takes that long.
And we asked if we could have a, you know, kind of sandbox or, you know, a place to kind of configure it, cause one thing I worry about, and I don't know why it takes long, it seems long. It's a standard solution, boom, we all get it. And then they have this long training and expensive training. But I think about that and, you know, we know our staff well enough and the functions well enough that it would be nice to take it and kind of get things configured for people, so they don't have to go through 1,000 options, like, we're not gonna start spending.
So have you seen, they've given you some documentation on costs, training costs?
They didn't give it, did they ever send
They
it to us?
never sent it to me, they screen
asked them.
shared it to me, and I should have taken a screenshot, but they never physically
asked
sent
us.
it to me. I
So-
can report from a ballpark standpoint of recalling what I saw, gosh, when was that? March, April, it's been several months ago. Implementation was budgeted at approximately $45,000.
So what I would want to see from them is, what is your implementation methodology? Do you do this in phases? What are the phases? What's included in each phase? I'd like to see a project plan.
Hmm.
Does this include project management? Who's project managing this implementation? And then I have questions about breaking out the costs. What are the costs for project management? What's the cost for data conversion, cost for testing, cost for training? And you, Jessica, bring another point. Well, a question on data conversion, does it bring all your settings? Or do you start from scratch?
My impression was that we start from scratch.
That was also my impression. The UI is different enough and it is programmed in a different computer language. Therefore, the settings I don't think could translate over one to one.
Because they haven't built that.
Well, yeah, probably.
That's why.
I think the other thing that we're gonna run into is their version of what their process that they spoke to us about is. For example, not that this is going to happen, but let's say they got our data this week. And they converted all of it. They would say, okay, you guys are going live next Monday.
No.
Well, I'm not saying that this would happen, but just give you an
Okay.
example. When you go live on that date, you stop using .NET, everything goes into cloud,
Right.
but you also may be concurrently still doing some training. That I did not like.
No, I didn't like that
No,
either.
you train in advance.
Yeah, but the
You test?
the problem with how they were explaining this to us was because there's not the sandbox or the testing environment.
Well, they
That's
can,
exactly what I said.
they can build one.
Yeah, Kathleen's right, we need to ask for more. I think, and the thing too is like the whole fundamental design of it is different. So when BS&A was first created, there was like a different person at BS&A who each developed each different module. And so, and we live it out every day, right? We've got the assessing database for each year, the tax database for each year. So you literally drop down to pick a database. You're in current year, right? And it locks in. And then there are prior year databases that are locked. And those are each old databases, year by year. The 8 financial modules, of course, it goes back to when we started using it, like 2008, 2009-ish. It's all one database for the financials. And then separate yearly databases for assessing and tax. So I asked him, because he explained the new design is one database, which makes me very nervous because I'm like, but where does all that stuff go, you know? And he explained that they would go back 2 years in assessing and tax. 2 years, because I said, well, what about the historical? And it's not so often, Kathleen, that you have to look back at old assessing and tax, but those are the most like fundamental permanent records of the township, right? Particularly if we go paperless and we want to keep more things like conservation easements, land divisions, all this stuff. So he said they go back 2 years and then there'd be some archive, some way you could view the old stuff, but it wouldn't really be, connected. So I guess fundamentally it's like, it's all, they're gonna take our data from the last 2 years of assessing and tax. They'll take all of our historical data from finance and put it together into one database. The thing is, continuing with .NET is not gonna be an option. The customer support's already dropping in order to pressure people to
Pretty
go
bad.
into cloud. So they've moved most of their people to cloud, but as Ryan said, it's still like 80% of people are still on .NET. And I think a lot of jurisdictions like ours, and especially ones that are smaller, are really gonna struggle to make this transition.
Well, I see comments from MTA about poor implementation. And it's
Yeah.
BS&A, what are the problems that give me a report of what other municipalities are experiencing.
Yep.
I
Because
would
we don't
be,
want to experience those, so it could be simply methodology, implementation, it could be project management,
Yeah.
it could be lack of testing.
I think some of this comes down to. I think they're starting to learn how to do some of this, but they haven't learned it terribly well yet. Coming from the world of software where you could go down multiple different paths to do training. Obviously, if we're implementing something like maybe our delinquent personal property tax model, it is what it is. There's not a lot of options. You could do something where you had like a self-guided video training where you could even offer it at the end of it, say, hey, if you really want more help, like we could do like a 1 hour, training resource on that through Zoom or something. Versus something like the general ledger module where if you set it up wrong, it's gonna have a lot more implications to things. And having an in-depth plan and process there. So
I mean, I would like to get like the settings. And this is where it's just this, I found this frustrating when we talked to them and when they presented too. It's like, I would like to be able to customize some of the settings, get things kind of set up before it's deployed.
Absolutely.
And that is not what they're offering, and they were clear on that it's a standard solution, the settings don't transfer. And then the training, I think, is gonna be,
and I see this a lot with things that get rolled out, it's like, it's things are almost in an effort to sort of democratize access to information and customize. It's like, well, not everybody needs every option. For a lot of people, it's just confusing.
Absolutely.
And not everybody needs a dashboard to see the progress on A, B, or C. People just need to do task 1 and 2, and that's all they're ever gonna need to do. So it did seem to me, Ryan, I don't know what your impression was, that it wasn't a super simple design. Like, it was neat, like, isn't that neat? That you can do all that stuff, but it wasn't with kind of the day-to-day in mind as much. So again, I don't know, I wanna look at, just see a Hail Mary if there's another option. If we do, which it sounds like we probably will choose to go toward this, what is the best way with all these good questions? What is the best way for us to get a honest answer from BS&A about these things, about what their implementation problems have been? These sort of things, because Ryan and I had a, one-on-one kind of teams with them, and we asked some questions.
I think we got some answers. I don't know if we got. I don't even know if you could qualify as a third of our questions answered.
Yeah,
Over those several, of course, the first conversation was with the salesperson. The subsequent conversation was with the more technical, person who actually apparently sold Township.net a while ago. I would say after that, I would think we're in the ballpark of 50-60% of things answered. At least to some extent, maybe
Yeah.
not all of them are answered amazing.
These are standard questions to do a software implementation.
I agree.
So they should be providing them.
so should we try to have a meeting with the tech? Remember the guy who came on the training? And I apologize, I'm forgetting his name, but he was,
Bill, something.
Bill.
Something, yeah.
yeah, he was the IT brains of the operation. Might be good to just kind of meet with him and go through some of this and ask, like, to your point, can you transfer settings over? Could they develop that?
And please, what is your methodology?
Yeah.
Show me a project plan. What does these costs include? Because that's how projects fail.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel a lot of trepidation about this because they have said, one, it looks like we have one option. It's never a good position to be in.
No,
2, they're saying, oh, we're all backed up and overwhelmed, and I know about the implementation problems, and BS&A has struggled to have enough staff for many years. And so those are red flags. I mean, I don't have, it's not like brand loyalty.
and then we haven't even talked about the layer on top, which is their payment solution, which has all sorts of. Does it look nicer than the current website? Yes. Does it cost more from a user standpoint? Yes. Would it maybe solve some of our problems with Invoice Cloud? Maybe.
Well, I think that's important, Ryan, is, they have, because it was a similar thing with, if they have one payment provider we can use, correct?
We can continue with Invoice Cloud, but there might be a day that comes where they say, hey, we're done.
So then we have a monopoly, we're stuck with their payment processor.
It's possible.
Yeah.
What are the annual costs comparison .NET versus cloud?
We got a .NET renewal the other day. I'm not entirely sure why we're building different chunks. There's probably a historical reason as to we bought different things at different times of the year.
Yeah.
I would estimate, but I can pull it up while I'm doing this, I think we're in the realm of $30,000
For the .NET solution.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's more than that, Brian, but
Some more, okay, I'll look at
But,
GL.
if you wouldn't mind.
And
Yep.
then ballpark to
Total.
cloud.
First year cost with implementation and training was approximately $140,000. The training
Yeah.
being about 40 to 45,000 of that. And training is billed as being virtual training, any on-site training requested would be billed at travel and expenses.
And they have assured us that we can put unlimited data, store unlimited data, unlimited documents, unlimited. But I don't know what their contract terms look like, how long their contract would be. That's what I asked them to send us, is their standard contract. And we did not receive that.
So the cloud, roughly $140,000 per annum. And you're saying part of that is continuous training that we would ask for? 40,000?
No, one-time training for the transition.
But is,
That would be about $45,000.
that's not included in 140?
It is.
So,
Ongoing cost roughly 100,000 a year.
right, okay.
So I just pulled up accounts payable in 2024. Some of those might be training.
Yeah, but you could just total all the BS&A for rough.
2024, let me just do the fiscal year. Actually, 22,000 is what I showed AP.
For a full year?
Uh-huh. BS&A annual service, this doesn't even have an attachment, I have to go into GL. I'll pull that up for next time.
Yeah, that's,
I will say the user interface as somebody that deals with that type of software online a lot is very functional for me. I think it's gonna be harder for people that are used to BS&A.net.
yeah, but it's very few people who are used to BS&A.net.
Yeah.
You know, it's assessing and finance who use it the most.
Mm.
You know, department heads kind of, you know, less so. Okay, so how do we want to get these questions answered? Should we try to have a meeting or should we maybe just write up our questions? Send them to them and try to have a meeting to get them answered?
I think that's an option.
I'm surprised nobody's like open source, like designed something for government, like done something. You know, kind of that. Do you know what I mean? Like there just should be something available.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if, you know, BS&A, if they are very slow to implement, they'll become another competitor in this space too. Somebody will appear.
I mean, being owned by private equity never generally drives innovation.
You're saying BS&A is?
Yeah, anywho.
Has that long been the case? What do you know about
I've been told it's been the case for about 1.5 to 2 years now.
that? Okay,
And I think that's one of the things, in addition to the development cost, but I think that's one of the things driving some of the pricing on the cloud side is some of the recoupment of their investment. But,
Have they lost senior leadership?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like we have some questions about the health of the company.
So I guess, do we wanna try and invite? Would it be better to have, I'm just asking from a standpoint of understanding what we can figure out. Would you want the new sales representative to come to a meeting of this group, or us have a meeting with that gentleman and bring results back to answer these questions and deliberate further? I guess how do we best handle that?
Well, who would be managing the project? Is it sales or is it the tech guy?
So it better not be sale.
I don't know.
It shouldn't be sales, but at this point, the salesperson is the point of contact,
Yeah,
or as they call them, account managers.
I think it'd probably be most effective if they were in a non-public conversation involving Kathleen. I mean, I'm happy to be there too, but like, this is your world, you know?
It's,
I mean, I just think that when we talk to them on Teams, like privately, we made some headway, so I think, a conversation with one or two of us privately would probably be most effective. And even then, they were a little hesitant, but really, they should be able to provide us something in writing. And even the contract terms would be really important to me.
Mhm.
Like if this is gonna go up, 10% every year, or if it's only a 2-year contract or something like that, that's worth knowing. I mean, the thing about the .NET is you're actually just buying a product instead of a subscription,
Mhm.
you know? So,
Well, you have your infrastructure and your server that moves to them as a hosted solution.
right,
You have to pay for that.
right. Right,
I think the biggest thing that changes here, in addition to where the data lives, it makes, for better, for worse, it makes them a lot more powerful in this relationship,
yeah,
which is a bit unnerving.
right,
Well, you hope they wanna do the right thing. You don't know that, just like so many of the situations were being presented over the last several months, they end up taking a 22% price increase in 3 years, which frankly is decently common in the software world, where you onboard someone and you have that nice large revenue up front because you have the training cost, and then you get them comfortable on the platform, and then that way you have good lifetime value of the customer. You get to year 3, 4, 5, and you say, oh, they're so embedded and it's gonna be so hard for them to switch. Now we're able to seek more profit. From a capitalistic standpoint, it's understandable. From a wanting to work with them as a vendor standpoint, it makes the relationship a bit disgusting. And it's just something I would caution us on, because I can see it being possible, especially knowing some of their new ownership.
So what about this letter from other municipalities trying to form a group purchase for 20% off?
We would have to agree by the end of the year to at least sign the contract and provide a first payment towards our contract cost. And it is only a 20%, sounds minimalistic, it is only a 20% discount on implementation cost, not on the total contract value, from my understanding.
So these other entities should have the same questions we have.
right.
I believe they may have some of them. I think a lot of them are smaller, just looking at the list that I've seen, and I don't know how much technical experience they have.
I do think if we were gonna work in coalition with some other townships or jurisdictions,
because I'm intrigued by the idea, I wonder if we might partner with a couple other local Washtenaw County ones. Because there are some things with tax and assessing that I think might be somewhat standardized. Accounting a little less so, but, it's just easier. Ryan has the relationships with other treasurers, I with other clerks, like, it would be easier to build kind of trust and consistency if we're kind of asking questions and we're all in kind of the same negotiation together. I know Pittsfield has already moved to the cloud. But I could just do a quick survey of the others, and see what everybody else uses in Washtenaw County. Which might be a good starting point. Cause I know, Webster, Ann Arbor, all of those are gonna have to go to the cloud pretty soon. So,
I'd be surprised, Dexter Township. I think,
Carrier was on something else, I have to remember what. They were on two different systems.
oh, yeah, it's even more fun.
Oh, I see comments that townships are on QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Just like, well, that's just the money side of it. There's more to it. than that.
Right. And then there's our paper files and our Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, doing QuickBooks for government accounting is gonna be different.
But they have, they have limited funds, so they do the best they can.
So
Exactly.
I guess to recap, since we're nearing an hour, I have a long list of concerns and questions that we brought up. Do we want to, Kathleen, would you and I like to see if we can schedule a meeting with this account manager person and see if we get some questions answered and
Thank you, guys.
report back? When would we like to have our next meeting?
What works for you guys? You wanna say in maybe 2 weeks? I mean, it really depends. Should we just wait until after you guys have had that meeting? I mean, I can survey the other jurisdictions in the county. See if
We
there's,
could at least share some information back in 2 weeks. I think we would have time to talk to the account manager before then. At least we get answers to some of the questions and
Okay.
you have some things to report back. Then maybe we refine down and have more questions answered if we have to wait for the technical folks to answer some of the technical questions.
okay.
So wanna do the 11th at the same time?
Sure.
Okay.
That work for you, Kathleen?
And I can pull together a super simple agenda and any documents you all have to share, just send them to me and I'll post them.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, great. With that, I'll see if there's any public comment. So please raise your Zoom hand. Hi, Rob.
Hi, everyone. Got some questions.
Sure.
I think the two most important ones are, I think an IT person should be on this committee to help you understand the ins and outs, the ramifications of transitioning from this in-house controlled .NET module system to being a client of a outsourced, outside controlled cloud system. And as we have always said over the last 3 or 4 years, put it out to bid. Being beholden to BS&A because they happen to be our current system, since it's a complete change in system. As I was listening to your conversation, I thought, oh, well, this is just going to be an evolution of the module system, but it sounds like it's going to be completely different with all new training, all new controls. And in that case, put it out to bid. And in order to do that, Kathleen was talking about the MTA for other townships or other municipalities having trouble with BS&A. Number one, get that list of what the other problems are so that you have that list of questions for them too and find out what those answers are, but also use the MTA as a resource to find what other systems are out there. The Michigan Township Association, for those listening, is a state-run group that helps local municipalities with the fine details of running local government, and that will be a good resource. If this is going to go to the cloud, will there be a daily hard drive backup that Scio will have control of? Seems to me that that will be another important component in this, so that you're not, so that all the data isn't off somewhere else, that if something happens, you guys lose everything. And since BS&A is being used every day, that daily backup I think will be important. And I would also say, have BS&A show you, when you have your questions with them, have them show you examples of other similar townships because Scio, there's what, 1,400 municipalities in Michigan. Scio isn't unusual. So find out what they've done for other similar municipalities and or townships. And right now, the .NET renewal is 30,000, probably more per year. Ryan's estimate was 30 grand. Jessica thought maybe a little bit more. And we're talking now about $100,000 a year. So is this new system going to be 3 times as effective as the current one? I think that's a valid question. And the open source was a very good point, Jessica. I hope that there is maybe something out there. And also, this is all happening now. Listening to your conversation, it sounds like this is all happening now because BS&A was sold in the last couple of years. Ryan, is that what you understand?
I think it's coincidental, but I do think it's partly because they've developed this solution. And now that since they've sold, they certainly want to sell more of this solution.
Gotcha. And then my last point is protecting Scio Township data, I think, is your primary responsibility. And so making Scio Township a guinea pig for BS&A, I think, is a huge risk. And waiting until they have something more established with less bugs that are causing less trouble to other townships or other groups that have already implemented it. I think not being in a hurry to do this transition, I think, will be very important, because if this is all brand new, and it's like, Microsoft putting out their new operating system every year for decades and letting, the customers figure out the bugs. I don't think that Scio Township wants to do that with BS&A. Thanks for letting me comment.
All right, thanks a lot, Rob. Appreciate it. All right, I see no other members of the public. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Brandt, is there support?
Support.
Support by Yeaple, all in favor, say aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned at 2:03 PM. Thank you both so much.
Yep.
Sorry, I have to run. Gotta hop on a meeting.